any update on the accreditation for them, or is it? I see that the budget has been increased for this year, so just wanted to see if that's part of it.
No, there's, since my visit to the fire station, there has been no further discussions directly, at least not between the minister and the department, but these are works in progress. And of course, once the budget is established and approved, they can begin using funds that are available to them. We have, one of the issues that we have there as well is that seemingly in the past, we have had firemen who have, who should have been promoted and did not get their promotion on time. So they did not get their rank, neither did they get the salary in keeping with the rank. And we have at least 2 cases where there's a threat to take government to court over it. This is something that I've inherited. And just yesterday, I signed off on a document asking the organization to provide an urgent advice on it, because no less than 2, I think, who are claiming their rights were trampled on, in the sense that they should have gotten, based on their years in service or certification that they have been awarded, they should have been promoted to a higher rank, and they did not. So these are issues that will be dealt with as we go along. What I'm doing presently is visiting all of the departments that fall under the ministry. You're getting to hear firsthand from the head of the department what the concerns are. And in another stage, we will deal with the concerns probably from the persons working in the organization as well. My policy is not to make it any habit or make it a policy at all to deal with workers directly. In the ministry, you have the SG, who is responsible, and the heads of departments need to report to the SG. But you can have a situation where those at the bottom might say, I have a problem with either a manager in the middle or the general manager at the top. And if, you can't, as minister, ignore it and say, no, I'm only dealing with the SG. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Judy Fitzpatrick, Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peterson. Good morning, ministers. Before I get into my questioning, I just have a clarification from Minister Lee regarding the Zika cases. You said you've heard of several persons who've canceled their trips. Estimated, how many persons are we talking about?
I don't have a total number. It's anecdotal, just from those in the hospitality industry saying that they have received a few cancellations. I don't think it's a large number. The real question, I think, if you're looking for an economic impact number, the real question is who's not booking their trips to begin with because of it, and that, again, there's no numbers for that yet.
Thank you for that. Minister Marlin, the education minister is not here, but you did sit in for her as the deputy minister in Parliament yesterday, and you mentioned in your presentation on Minister Jacobs' behalf that there are plans in place to extend the school hours. Now, I understand that those plans have already been finalized, and the school hours for the new school year would actually be extended to 3 p.m. Can you confirm this, and what is the premise behind extending the school hours to 3 p.m.?
It is so interesting. You say that it's already been confirmed.
No, I said I understand it's already been finalized.
I basically was the messenger in the Central Committee meeting. The answers came from the organization, and I was the vehicle to provide the answers. I would not venture into this. The minister is back today. She will be in Parliament this afternoon, and I'm sure if you visit her office in the course of today or tomorrow, she will bring you up to speed with it. I have no idea when it will go into effect or why it is they have gone into that direction.
But can you confirm that it has been finalized? Because I'm sure it was brought
This
to
is
the
what I
council.
just said.
No, either.
I answered, provided answers that were provided. I will not get into confirmation of something that I'm not sure of.
Thank you so much for that. Now, this is an area that you are responsible for, and it has, well, you've spoken about it before. Can you say when is the next shareholders meeting for GEBE? And who is the current manager there right now since Mr. Brooks has resigned? And can you also say whether someone is currently being vetted for the CEO or any other position at that company?
I think I've addressed this. The only thing that wasn't addressed at that time because the information was not known, but seemingly the board appointed the interim manager, Mr. Zagas. Zagas is the head of finance, I think it is, but he's one of the finance people in there who, over the years, whenever management was not there in its totality, whether you had a 1, 2, or a 3-man management board in place, whenever management would not be present, management would appoint Zagas to hold the fort until they return. In terms of who the persons are that are being vetted, I have addressed that also in general terms. It is not the way I think government should go, and definitely not the way I would go. I've pointed this out in terms of when ministers are being vetted as well, because you need to protect the identity of people. I know that the Corporate Governance Council, at least from the Minister of Romi, I was made to understand that the Corporate Governance Council was already approached in terms of these are possible candidates for positions on the board. These are possible candidates for position in the management board. Once the Corporate Governance Council renders its advice, and I think at the same time also the process has started. If it didn't, it should have started also at the the National Security Services, VDSM, because in accordance with the law, anybody that has to be appointed in position as the CEO, CFO, or COO, whatever, at GBE, but not just at GBE, at any of the government companies, they would have to go through the screening. And if they don't pass the screening, they will not get that certificate of no objection and therefore cannot hold the position.
Judy, thank you very much for your round of questions.
But I didn't ask two
3
questions.
shots took place in that round right there.
No, one was a clarification, and I asked
Well,
two
then you get that
questions.
clarification in the second round. Bibi Shaw, you have the floor.
Thank you, Cedric. Minister Marling, I'm going to go directly just after my colleague with GEBE. I understand your answers, but I would ask you some specific questions. I don't know if you're allowed to give the answers. Based on the letter that was sent to the Council of Ministers, I noticed something that was left out. The board, of course, they were asked to provide information on the temporary manager who resigned. But there's somebody on the, working for GEBE that has an office upstairs of the Windward Island Bank, which cost a huge rent and also receiving a huge salary. Is the shareholder questioning this as to the functioning of this person, and why is it the shareholder hasn't taken any measures? When I say shareholder, not the shareholder, the supervisory board of directors haven't taken any measures against this particular person, but are going after those that are doing things wrong in the managerial board. And I'm quite sure you understand who I'm speaking about without calling the names. Like you said, let's protect people's identity.
Protecting people's identity is differently at times. If someone is being proposed for a position and that person fails the screening, it has nothing to do with the person necessarily having a criminal record or having had done something wrong, but on Facebook and other social media, then you're going to hear, you know who they put up for manager or for minister, Peter, and Peter failed the screening, why, and it starts to live a life of its own. There is a difference, however, that if Peter is in function and Peter is doing things that Peter should not be doing, if somebody is aware of it and reports it, once it is accurate, because that is the other problem that we have. One is accused of something, and then you got to prove that you are innocent. So people supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but here we accuse somebody of being guilty, and then they got to go prove that they are innocent. You, again, I didn't understand your question, but you're assuming that I know that somebody working for GBE has an office upstairs, Windward Islands Bank. I can confirm to you right here, right now, I am not aware of who it is you're speaking about. I would not know why a GBE employee has an office above Windward Islands Bank. If GBE has an employee that has an office outside of GBE premises, the persons to answer to that would be A, GB's management, and B, the supervisory board, in terms of, guys, are you aware of, and is this part of GB's policy? Government has employees that work above Photogums on Back Street, where Photogums used to be upstairs. Government has employees that work all over Phillipsburg and outside of Phillipsburg. Government has employees that work in Simpson Bay. So now if, one would say, you're aware that there's a government employee that has an office upstairs Windward Islands Bank? As a matter of fact, government has employees next door to Windward Islands Bank. So if GBE has an employee or employees in an office upstairs Windward Islands Bank, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Are you going to look into it, or a consultant, if you don't want to call this person an
No, you're
employee?
telling me GBE has an employee. GBE's employees are not consultants. If there's a consultant, if GBE has consultants, consultants can operate any and everywhere. Consultants can operate from their home. So I honestly don't know what it is you're trying to suggest, okay? First you tell me it's a GBE employee, now you're telling me it's a consultant. Consultants, I don't want to name names of consultancy companies, but we have endless consultancy companies on the island. We have endless employees, individuals who have consultancies. You have some consultancy firms that are big, and you have persons, after they retire, they have consultancies, and they provide consultancy work for government, for GBE, for SZV, for the airport, for the harbor, for companies. I don't know. So if there is a specific thing you're trying to get at,
Yes, there
then
is.
say so, because I don't know what you're talking
Okay, I'm talking about Curtis Haynes working as a consultant or employee. I don't know his specific.
about. You see, there you go
His
again.
description.
You're
But
saying, you're talking about Curtis Haynes, you're calling a name, and you don't know what it is.
His specific description, but then GEBE is paying the rent for that office, and then he has an exorbitant salary. What I'm asking that, will this shareholder be looking into this?
One of the
Because
things the shareholder has discussed with the board when we met several weeks ago was to provide an overview of all the consultancies, provide an overview of the scope of work, what it is they have been consulted to do, and provide an overview, let's say, of their deliverables. Now, based on that, management would need to assess or reassess the relationship, and government, because government has been hearing things as well. But I'm not going to publicly start shooting at people if I don't have the proper information to take decisions. And as I said, you want to, as government, not get on the seat of the management or the board, but ultimately government as the shareholder. If government hears there are strange things happening, government would call those who are responsible and say, hey, boo, we understand these are strange things happening. Please look into it and report to us as to what is happening. But the decision to hire people is not that of government. The decision to hire a consultant is not the decision of government.
Minister Lee, you'd like to chime in on that?
If I might just add in, I think that reviewing in general consultancy agreements for government and government-owned companies is one of the focuses of the Council of Ministers. So, one of the questions would be, why are we hiring consultants when perhaps we should be hiring employees with particular skill sets? And would that be a cost savings for government? So, as we are operating with a very limited budget, we need to make sure that the money is being spent efficiently and effectively. So I think in general, if I might just add in that the review of how consultants are used and what the cost benefits are versus hiring an employee is something that in general the Council of Ministers is looking at.
Maybe next question, please.
Prime Minister, I was asking you about the budget presentation when my last question, in my last question. There's one thing I wanted to clarify or get some ideal answers on. Prior to taking office, the former government got a partial instruction about the debt for SZV APS. When you took office, did any of the former finance ministers or Minister of TIAT made any effort to do something to alleviate that debt or to pay off that debt? They were given a time frame, but did they start working on it? That's one part of the question. Second part of the question is, did any Minister of Finance, TIAT, did anything to be able to collect the casinos' fees even after the 2007 court decision? I'm asking you, when you took office, if any of this happened by the prior government, if you found anything to show that.
The casino fees, I know the decision was taken by this government when we asked, why is there a backup in casino fees, which was something like 13, I think it was 13 million, 13. When we asked, why is there a backup? There are two components to the casino fees. One, the monthly fee, which is like 50,000, I think, for a full-fledged casino, and 30,000 for those that don't have tables. But also, there's an agreement between government and the casinos that you pay the fees related to casino controls and casino controllers. That fee was not being paid by some of the casinos, and it amounted to some 13 million going back to the last 5 years. Government had the authority to collect the fees. What government did not have was a mechanism in place that the receiver could pursue and let's say force them to pay. That decision this government had taken. What previous governments did or did not do, I don't know. The other issue you spoke about was the debt. I can't tell you which minister did what or which minister did not. I can only confirm that there was no agreement. What we have seen was a document. When I got involved in it, and a document was brought to me, drafted by the APS, I think it was, or at least that is who I got it from. Well, I got a document, and the terms and conditions of that agreement was like, you guys can't be serious. It was really not workable. They wanted an attachment on all government income. They wanted government to pledge their income, pledge all the land around the Ring Road and the Ring Road land. They wanted government to pledge income from something else and from government companies. I mean, it was like government going to some bank, not even government, well, government is government, but some brokes guy going to a bank for a loan, and the bank being concerned about how they're going to get their funds. And we said, no. So we started basically from ground zero, and the discussions were spearheaded by the Minister of Finance, and we reached an agreement that I think everybody now can be happy with and can live with. Their debt will be cleared within 3 years. Government would have complied with the instruction of the CFT, and we can move forward, complete the building, have the building completed, move in. And of course, it is not such good news for people who have had government as a landlord for many years, but I'm sure with the building being in town, whatever buildings we vacate in town, I'm sure there are other people who are now saying, thank God government left, now I can get a dig-in closer to the heart of town, let's say. So I don't think it's, probably it might be even in the interest of some of them that now the cheap government has gone and I can make now some real good money in the private sector.
Bibi, thank you very much for your
Thank you so
question.
much, Minister Marlin. Minister Lee.
Thank you very much, Bibi. Hilbert Hart, Today newspaper.
Yes, one more question, Minister Marlin. Last week you spoke about media leaks from GB. Could you be some more specific about the source of those leaks within the company? Where did they come from?
What I've said is, it is symptomatic of GBE as a government-owned company. When we line up all the government companies and agencies, one, you have government itself as a huge apparatus. Then you have government-owned companies and agencies like SFV, like pension fund, you name it. But there is something symptomatic about GEBE, that information from GBE is constantly being leaked and is constantly on social media. So it was more a remark in the sense that this is one of the discussions that government has had with the board and the management, and we said it was something that was not good for the company. Who exactly leaked what, when, and where, and why is not what I would go into now, or because I cannot tell you that guaranteed it is Peter, Paul, or Harry who has leaked, but it is clear that it is something symptomatic of GEBE, that there is no other government company or agency whose laundry, and I would not say whether the laundry is clean or dirty, but whose laundry is out there as much as GB's laundry. And it's not good for the company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hilbert. Judy?
Thank you. Prime Minister, yesterday in Parliament, you mentioned when you were speaking on behalf of the Education Minister that the former Prime Minister had stopped the collection of study financing, hence a significant drop in the amount government collected. Can you say whether the collection efforts have resumed and when?
No. What you have is apparently, this thing goes back for many years, that if we go back even in the days of St. Martin being part of the Netherlands Antilles, it was one of those things that had a policy where it was tolerated because it was one of those dark, shady areas, gray areas, not shady, but those gray areas that like everybody know it was necessary, but nobody could have come up with a solution. Because as an island territory, we didn't have the right to borrow, neither did we have the right to extend loans. So government could not give loans. But study financing from in the days of the Netherlands Antilles, St. Martin was giving loans to the recipients of study financing. So government never had the mechanism or didn't have the authority to give loans, and government therefore didn't have the legal basis to collect on a loan. On becoming country, this matter was cleared up. So we now have the legal authority, and there is jurisprudence to that effect, to collect on the loans. What probably may have played a role over the years was the political will to go after it. Because at the end of the day, there are St. Martin students who were given study financing, and particularly if you have a history where those who studied 20 years ago and 15 years ago came back and never paid a cent, and then all of a sudden now somebody else is being told, we are sending you an invoice for the money. When we look at the amount that government spends, and the first year that collections was done, you collected 4,000 guilders, it is like, that sounds maybe like just 1 or 2 students, maybe 5 or 6. I don't know how much the student paid back. And then it increased somewhat, and then it jumped to 44,000, and that is when we understood that the Prime Minister, those are the answers that I got, instructed them to stop the collection. But I think if not already in place, it will soon be in place, that the collections will pick up. And we hope that one of these days we can really turn the study financing into a revolving fund as much as possible. And why I say that is the amount of students that go to study continues to grow. And if we just keep taking money from the budget to advance to students to finalize their education or to get a college education overseas, and then they repay nothing at all, then we may as well not call it a loan, then just give them $10,000, $20,000, $13,000 or whatever the amount would be, and say, make do with this, and then you don't collect them. But if you're going to collect them, you can't collect some and don't collect others. So there's need to be a proper policy in place, which there is now. It's a matter of executing that policy.
And since I spoke to you yesterday on this question, have you since found out why it was stopped?
No. As I said, yesterday was a long and busy day, and this morning was one just the same. The Minister of Education will be back today, and the Ministry of Education would be able to provide you more insight into it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much on that. And Mr. Brian DeHer met with the Council of Ministers last Thursday, and he indicated that he officially asked the council to investigate the Harbor CEO, and he elaborated on why. What steps will government take based on this request?
Brian DeHer, no, I was not in that meeting. I was not in that meeting, so I don't have the details of it.